Okay, so.
Well, we need to adopt the agenda.
Yes, sorry.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam President, I motion to adopt the agenda.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes with a vote of 3-0. Now, we can move on to governing board rules.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Everyone ready for Christmas?
No.
No.
Not at all.
I left my cart.
Again? Bring it back.
You left your cart?
Yeah.
My cord, sorry.
No problem. It's an open meeting. You're more than welcome to join us and observe these lovely ladies. So,
Three.
I think you have to peel that around.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So those were challenges that she was experiencing. Any celebrations or anything, happy moments anyone would like to share? Happy moments? I'm not asking for a lot, just a moment.
Oh, soccer won the other night. That's a happy moment.
It was 12-0, I heard.
It was?
It was 2-0, I think, when I left. They were looking good. And Kira got hit in the face. She okay?
She got hit in the face, but then that wasn't even the worst of it. She got tripped or something. She landed on her bad side of her body.
She wasn't moving.
And she wasn't moving for a bit. But then she got up. And then she was like,
Holding on to her shorts.
she was like this. She wasn't moving her arms, so I was kind of freaking out for a little bit. But eventually, she's fine.
So congratulations, girls soccer. There's a choir concert tonight if anyone has the opportunity to attend. It starts at 6, so I'm really hoping that we will be done at 6 today so I can head over there, and I think the orchestra is also playing. So any happy moments for you?
Well, Desert Vista had their first annual concert, Christmas concert at the PAC, and it was packed. And I was there last week.
A little concerned about the numbers of people there, so
It
we're
was
gonna try to
out-
figure out what we can do to make that.
Yes. And I think for their
acceptable.
first time, they did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think every year it'll improve better and better. But I think that the kids were so cute. They did a good job.
So it really was packed?
It was
packed.
It was
There were lines
standing
out the
room.
door.
There
That's
was
awesome.
Out the door.
640 seats are in there. I think somebody
Wow,
had asked me
that's
about.
so cool.
Yeah,
And
that
it
is
was
cool.
against the wall,
Out the door.
in the lobby, and out the door.
Nice.
And
So-
so I think what was happening was some of the kids, so they did it by grade. So when one grade would come up, some of the parents would leave so that the other parents could come in because it was just so full.
But then if I had a child who was in first, fourth, and sixth, I'm
Yeah.
there for the whole time and I'm
Right.
not moving.
And then at the end of the event, she had all the kids come up, so it
Well,
was cute.
happy moment? Happy moment?
Happy moments.
No, happy moments.
Cash got a, what did you get stuck
Oh,
on?
we're allowed to talk about cash?
Yeah, talk about cash.
Happy moments come in all different sizes and
Oh,
shapes.
I got a really good.
Cash
Wait,
took a
turn
rock
it
up
on
his
your
nose.
But he got it out.
He got it out, he snorted it out.
He did what?
Snorted the rock out of his nose.
You put a rock in his mouth.
I don't know if that's happy moment,
That's not,
but
that's.
But he got it out.
it was pretty funny when I got
That was
to the daycare to pick him up, and that was the note I got. And she even saved the rock for me. so.
Did you still have the rock?
It's on a little sticky note. I feel like I'm gonna save it forever.
You put it in the little box
Yeah,
and
I have
then.
a little file.
Kinda
that I'll
cute.
put it in, yeah.
Because his wife will appreciate that someday. He won't,
know,
but she will.
I know.
And your happy moment?
Okay, so I have a couple. It's now that you're making me think about it. One is my daughter was accepted into ASU. So that
Congratulations.
was exciting. And then she was also nominated for something, but I can't remember. Oh, Sports 360 AZ. So there was 3 girls from volleyball in Apache Junction that received this first team, and it was
For Pinal County again?
for, let's see, it's Sports 360 AZ, all academic volleyball teams.
Very cool.
So it was Maddie Roach, Lucia, and Cameron. It's Cameron's last name. Kruger.
Okay.
So they were first teamed.
Well, congratulations, your daughter's been accepted to college.
My son got his driver's license, that's very scary.
And Cash got the rock out
Cash
of
has
his
the
nose.
rock up his nose. I'd rather have the rock up the nose. I'd rather have the 5-year-old again.
Well, my happy news is that I got to babysit 3 grandbabies on Saturday evening, all night long. And my daughter says I'll be there between 9:30 and 10 on Sunday morning to pick them up. And I said, well, 9:30 is better than 10. This is the first time, I think, well, first time I know that all of them have been away from the kids overnight. And so I then get a text message saying, so what time are you coming over? Well, we didn't get in till 5:30 from their Christmas party. 'Cause
In the
they-
morning?
Yeah, so the Christmas party, their boss actually rents the rooms for all the employees, and so then they're at the talking stick. And
Oh, fine.
so she goes, we didn't get in until 5:30, so it might be a little later than you think. Okay, 10:30 is okay, was my response. At 10, they show up, take the babies, I love them dearly, but.
Love to
It's
see
a lot
them
of
go.
work.
Hmm?
It's a lot of work.
Yes.
It is.
So-
Are they in bed early like you planned?
Oh, I had the plan,
Uh-huh.
and, okay, I'll just tell you one quick story. So I had Gwyneth on the end, I had Natalie, the 2-year-old, and then I was in here, and then the baby was in the playpen right here. So my husband knew silence, dark, nothing, we are not disturbing any of them. And so I'd hear this noise, and I'd open my eyes, and Natalie, oh no, the baby's screaming, let me rephrase that. The baby's screaming now on 10 to 12 minutes. I finally pick up the baby, and I put her right here next to me, and she's silent. So I now have 3 grandbabies and myself in a queen bed, and I'm like on my side. If I even move, I'm off the bed. So I'm closing my eyes, in my head, going, oh, please, I'll fall asleep, oh, please fall asleep. Gwyneth is over here shuffling around. After about 15 minutes, I think Gwyneth is asleep. I open my eyes, and Natalie is sitting up, staring at me, and at the baby, and staring at me again, and I just put my arm, like pull on her little bed blanket, and she falls back on the pillow, and I think I'm okay. Then I hear movement again, I open my eyes, she's staring at me and the baby again, goes back down. 3rd time, she's staring at me. This time she goes, not gonna have this. This is a 2-year-old who then proceeds to start, I'm on the edge of the bed, remember, climbing on me right here, because she's gonna get between me and the baby. She's gonna, so I'm like shoving the 10-month-old baby over. She drops there, and she's got this hair that's really curly, and so her hair is right here in my face, and it's like tickling me the whole time. After about 15, 20 minutes of that, I pick her up, drop her in the playpen. She goes right off to sleep, off to sleep, off to sleep. By 10:30, all babies were asleep.
Good for you.
Mhm.
It was a wonderful thing.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Oh, and I think we should really sell a really good happy moment. Is that our new award on there?
That is the new award up
Oh,
there.
award.
Oh, it's pretty. It
Yes.
We're gonna need another one to make a bookshelf of it, we decided, so in a couple of years, we will be there again.
Yeah, so that's exciting for us too.
So,
One was really nice.
today's agenda, we do have governing board goals. So we had Nikki Whaley come out a couple of, probably 6 to 8 weeks ago now. I have copies that I think I just gave to Jody of the summary report that she sent to us. And in the summary report, she talks about us taking what we had identified as being our important stuff, that we learned what was our important stuff from here. She brought us down, and so on, I think it's the 3rd page. On the 3rd page, it has the identifying common themes, identifying goals. So she had just shared the 5. We narrowed it down a little bit further, and I know Jody has some notes on that. And then our recommendations is to identify board members to help draft the goals, and then we need to present our goals at the next governing board meeting. So on January 8th, we are scheduled to adopt the goals. Now, these goals are supposed to be for 18-19, so we have basically 6 months left of 18-19 school year. So one of the things I would hope that you guys talk about today is, do these want to be goals that we have for a 12-month, that we come back next January? Or do we want it to just finish out this year? And if we're gonna finish out this year, we might want less goals with shorter time frames so that we can show that what we've accomplished.
Well, so these go in line with the board evaluation, which is on a calendar year.
Mhm.
So based on that, I would say like to do them on a calendar year.
Right.
So in our policy, it says that you guys are looking at the governing board evaluation. You guys are supposed to have it adopted or approved by the end of October.
No, distributed,
Is it distributed?
By the end of
distributed to be completed by the end of October.
Right.
And then the goals are supposed to be adopted before the end of November.
Correct.
So we're off our timeline
So
right
it's
now.
kind of on a calendar year.
Yeah, so we could come back in July, measure these, or we can go August. as
Well,
long-
I mean, I think if we're gonna change these to a school year, then I think we need to change the board evaluation to a school year.
Okay, so you're thinking
The
about-
board is on a calendar year.
Right.
Like our terms are on a calendar year.
Right,
Mhm.
because we start in January.
So I think that's why the board evaluations are on a calendar year.
Okay, so this is a discussion for you guys
So, I
on
mean,
what you want.
I don't really have a preference, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like, because the terms are based on a calendar, which it does seem like off.
It
Like,
does
it's
seem off.
like,
I mean, I'm fine either way. I like it to be on the regular calendar year, like from
January to December, or July 1st through
July.
June 30th?
I would say July would be better.
because I mean, I think the work of a board is ongoing. It's not just based on a school year.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think it might be harder if we did it on a school calendar year, because then you have a new board member coming in every 2 years in January who had
Right.
nothing to do with
Yeah.
any of
Yeah.
it at all. Whereas this way, at least it's kind of like
So start January.
the same term, the same frequency as our terms are,
So you think it's better to do it?
just the way that it already is.
The right term calendar or school year calendar?
So if we know that the governing board is going through their self-evaluation and it's getting distributed and that information in the October timeframe, at what point, because we do the self-evaluation, we get our results, we approve it in November,
Mhm.
so then what would you want for the timeframe of the goals? Because now we have our evaluation approved. Now, based on our evaluation, we develop goals.
Mhm.
So we're gonna develop goals in the December timeframe.
Well, so
Seems-
same thing, so like for me, like when we set these goals, we're gonna create quantifiable measures, so
Mhm.
each quarter, just like with the strategic plan,
Mhm.
we come back and evaluate where we're at with those. Then when we do our board evaluation, okay, where are we at with these goals, and then we do the board evaluation, and then we do new ones.
So the last quarter is where I'm trying to get to in my head. When do you say the last quarter is based on the calendar year?
October, November, December.
Okay, so you're saying the October timeframe. So then we are writing, what we would be doing is working on goals now that we
For the
would
whole
see, we
year,
would want to
20.
see
19.
our anticipated results to be in October of 2019.
Right.
The last quarter of 2019.
Yes.
Does that
Well,
make
the
sense?
last quarter of 2019 is December.
Well, October, I mean,
So that's the first quarter.
The tool goes out in October, the process isn't gonna occur until November.
Right.
But part of your, okay, so part of your self-evaluation is how did we do last year? So these
Right.
results would need to be,
Yeah, so we'll look at them in March, we'll look at them in June,
Right.
we'll look at them in September, and then we'll come back in October, November.
okay, okay. Okay, so knowing that, we have approximately 11 months
Mhm.
to see our progress. So you said we narrowed it down to 3. What were the 3 that you had identified?
Well, they were 5 different questions, but when we talked about them, we combined 1 and 2, and we combined 3 and 4. We combined questions 33, 34, and 41, 42 when we were discussing them. So number 33 and 34 was safety, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
So one structure we can do to work on this is, we can kind of do count off and add me into the mix, and then, 1, 1, 1, or I guess, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, ones get together, okay, we'll
Got it.
do one,
Mhm.
you're doing 2, and you're doing number 3. And then, so quantifiable results is, it could be that we want to be more visible at schools, or I'm not even looking at these at this point, but I'm just going to use this as an example. I think our governing board members need to come out to the schools more so that you can actually be seen by staff, you're seeing what's happening in the classroom. So what a measurement for that is that, we might just even make it a number. So we're going to attempt to be at each school for, we've got 6 sites in counting TLC that we are each member is going to at least visit each site once between now and the next 11 months.
Mhm.
So Chelsea and I were talking at the ASBA training to somebody that's on another board, and what that person said they do is they basically set a date for the whole board to go to that specific school. And obviously if 3 people can make it, or 2, whatever, but they give the date to the school, and then we're able to go as a whole and kind of like evaluate and just say hi, be involved with something. And so is that kind of like what you're?
Well, that was just an example of what, the board to ensure that policies. None of the example I gave you doesn't match this. So
Right.
that would not be one of the goals that we had identified as being a need. If that's something that you guys want, we can always do something like that outside of the goal.
Well, and we already have talked about
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so,
Okay.
we're gonna be talking about communication protocols next on the agenda.
Okay.
And one of the items on there talks about school visits, so we can
All right.
bring it up at that point.
So basically, going on what you're saying, if we kind of split up,
Mhm.
then we need to use these, do we have copies of this?
They're on the back of this packet I gave you.
Okay, cool. So basically, to create SMART goals, so they're specific, measurable, so we'll look at them each quarter with regards to the measurable, making sure they're achievable, realistic, and then time-bound, obviously, we've already discussed the time-bound part. So that way that we can create those measurable goals with those kind of things in mind, and then this kind of provides a little bit of a tool to be able to do that. So then, do you guys want to do that? Like do the whole 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? So basically that'll put us in groups of 2.
Mhm.
So 2 people will work on 1 and 2, right? 2 people will work on 3 and 4, or decide if they want to split them up or whatever, and then number 5. Does that make sense? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
And then when Krista comes, she could just join us. And then,
I have a lot of stuff for communication, so I actually think question 5 seems to make sense for me to work on,
Okay,
which would be the 3.
okay. So 1, 2, 1, 2. How's that?
Perfect.
What was it?
So you guys are going to do 1 and 2, and we're going to do 3 and 4. Okay?
on the goals and identifying the
Cami,
goals.
1 and 2 is us.
Yep. Okay.
Which
so-
is good, because we wanted to talk about school safety, so.
Okay. Where, do you want us to break up like in tables, like?
Yeah, so we can use those tables.
All right.
Are you staying right there?
Yeah, we'll just stay here. We'll just move Candy's.
She said that she was dropping something out at 3 o'clock and then coming over, so I'm guessing she'll walk in the door any moment.
Okay. So, here, this might, I don't know if we looked at this. So this was question 21. So, basically it's these 2 questions. So, have a process that includes community and parent involvement in selecting a curriculum. And then 42 is having policies that require rigorous and regular evaluation of curriculum and supplemental materials to ensure they align with state and district standards. And so one of the things that was kind of not confusing with some of these questions is prior to like this year,
Dr. Anderson.
this didn't have it. But like
Dr. Anderson.
this year when we
Why don't you
adopted
go
the
with us
Wonders
and
program for
choose?
grades 1, 2, and
I'm gonna
3,
start
like
working on it.
this did
Oh,
happen.
because of
There was a
that.
parent, there was a student, there was like, it did include.
So what, there was a parent
So
or
it's-
student like on a committee or something?
Yeah, so they had the teachers kind of narrow it down, and then they had it narrowed down to like 3, and then they created like a committee
Mhm.
that included teachers, administrators, students, parents, like all the kind of stakeholders to like help evaluate that. So I think that, like our process now does do this, but before it didn't.
Taking it and incorporating
So,
it into their current procedural pieces.
Right.
And
Once we
then
have
this
some policies
one,
that we can attach to this,
we
right?
didn't have, like, until we did that adoption, there hadn't been a curricular adoption for like 10 years.
The goal for you is that,
But
you would give
I don't know if you watched the last, was it the last board meeting or the one
that
before?
safe schools
You were here.
protocol will
Yeah,
be
you were here.
developed,
Where they, because that's one of the things we talked about
including training,
before, is
on all
creating like
sites,
a
including the district facility sites.
rolling
So
calendar
increases in making
of
some
curriculum
expectations, so
adoptions,
it's not
so
just-
that they get, so that's kind of already started down the road. So for me, like that is kind of what this means, like what, is that how you, like what you,
Mhm.
Yeah, there's
Just from
procedures in place.
what you
but
explained.
We don't have anything
Well,
that's
that's
tangible.
right.
And I agree
That's
with
what I
you.
wasn't concerned about is,
Have
the
you-
stuff that just happened.
now I do think like there's some,
We did.
sometimes we need to do a better job of like
Avenue that we've looked at.
But like, where does it
making
start?
sure
So the police got their
that the
information.
curriculum and the tools we use like align together to meet the goals, like so
Is there-
things beyond
I guess what we're
textbooks, which it
asking
took
is
me
just
like
for us to understand, not
2 years to figure
people
out that one, so I
in
don't feel
the-
bad.
What?
I mean,
Beyond textbooks.
Oh, okay.
But is there-
I know, and that's normal, don't feel bad, because people would say that they ET, and I'm like, I had to ask, them, like, what is that? I know this is really stupid, I'm like, what does that mean?
Because there's not telling anything set in
Um,
stone right now other than our policies.
Okay, so if we use this,
I mean, that's the whole process right there.
Right there.
And at that point, the police take over. So that's truly what the process is.
so in terms of how it relates to our,
Your door, you're barricading the door,
It's
kids are
on
going
here.
over the window, you're closing your
is the
window.
strategic plan,
So will there be a process like
Which
this when the substitute checks?
educational programs is goal 1.
Actually given a key to be able to walk through.
Is there programs for subs?
So this would be,
So those,
I mean,
that's,
that relates
those
to-
are part of the direction pieces. That was not the subject on the, but one of the things that will eventually evolve through this is there should be a substitute packet. So that when Nina is substituting, she gets the folder, and within the folder, all of those you want the key
so
procedures.
then
in there.
how
You
do we
don't want to
know,
stack that,
like
because the sub is not
basically,
gonna
like
do
what
it.
Right.
evidence
But you also want to know that
we look
when,
for that it's been accomplished?
Diana does sub-orientation, some of that should be brought into the sub-orientation.
You created
You know, this is,
a-
when you're in this statement, we are going into lockdown, these are the steps that you take. And this is like 8%.
You say we created a committee.
Well, I think that,
I just talked to you
so
about
like the way that, I kind of
are
like
here
the
as
board will
well.
ensure
So
the
those
process
are the
of things
processes
remains
that
like
should be in
curriculum that
place.
includes opportunities
I
for
know that all
buy.
in place right now.
So,
I haven't even seen what
like,
she
to
has
me,
for
it would be like
sub-orientation.
by
But I know that when I talk with Lisa and Jen,
the
some of
community
those
that
pieces
includes
are going
parent
to
involvement
staff
recommends
orientation.
the
But I
curriculum
didn't say anything about
for
sub.
adoption to the
Because
board.
like when I went into
that make
Scottsdale,
sense?
to get my orientation, it was a 4-hour
But then-
block. I was scheduled from 8 to 12.
So then that would
And
be,
every Wednesdays when they do orientation, so I had certified, classified, and administrative people in the room with me. And they went over step 1
yeah,
on
relief.
safe schools. And they also gave
We
a
haven't really created what the
orientation
goal
about social
is,
media and
though.
Facebook and how that can have
What the
implications
goal
on
actually
your
is.
When is the state supposed to come up with us?
It's very soon.
Okay, because we want to tie that into.
Yeah, so that's why I said, you know,
So
by
state policy
State the goal so that the
by
leaders can
2000,
easily and visually
this
describe it
is,
to blend
this
it
one
with
more than
grocery store
anything is giving
and
direction with some
understand.
time.
Right. Where did this
And
come
then
from?
what would you,
This came
something
from the-
specific, I would like
Oh,
protocol.
So I guess
for
like it would
school
be.
sites, school
let's
and
see,
district
words.
sites,
Um,
steps that they are required
Like
to take
adopt
in case of a emergency.
process or
And
a.
emergency is gotta be vague because it could be a fire, it could be a bomb threat, it could be a shooting, it could be.
Gotcha.
But what are the steps that we do? And so that will bring us to fire drills, it's gonna bring us to lockdowns. And then, then next year when you guys do this, and if it's not meeting, it doesn't hit all the different layers that I know it needs to have, because it will take us time, then next year you can add this as a continual goal, that now we need to go to the next layer. How are we, because the next step we should do.
So you're trying to make this
is
sound
actually
easier,
Or kind of combine them
we
in one
don't
like
have a site
statement.
that we've identified right now, that if we had to evacuate this whole corner of district staff, TLC, facilities, if we had to go to a different site, where is that site? How do we
But then like
practice
the
having
other
the
thing
parents
that
come
I
pick
get
up their
stuck on,
kids?
and one of the things that
Having that whole practice. So that would be-
Getting
is
it out
like,
to
Yeah.
the parents.
So how
he
does
has
that
to
look?
own it,
And
we create the oversight.
At the
Like,
superintendent?
who is involved and how often and how it's done, like, and then she does it. So not implements, how about reviews?
Tell me.
So we need, and that's one of the things is we need to have our
Curriculum.
businesses included in something like this. So if there's something going on at the high school, then we can let them know this is going on. It's gonna be creating parents need to park in their lots.
So you gotta remember, there's only 10 months here.
Involving.
Right.
So thinking about specific,
Oh, like
what
a
subject
subject?
do you want to see in place?
Okay, so,
Cause
What's
like, so you have,
that is
like,
reasonable and attainable
like English
in
for
10
grades 1
months
to
that
3,
you
English
expect
for grades
us to have for
4
safety
through
for our
6.
kids?
So
So I
there's,
had
you know,
an
like,
idea.
that chart had different, so like if there was a process that reviewed the curriculum by
Because if we could get the fire department.
I don't know if grade is the right word,
department
but
to actually.
grade or
I think
subject
as well with our override, if we could do a presentation
matter
or something during the time when we're trying to go out on Safe School.
longer
And,
than.
Well, it's gonna be dependent on what the
needs are.
election
Say it was
committee is
like
coming,
5%
gonna be
Mhm.
put together
Put
and in
in.
place in January. And when they're gonna look at M and L.
Because then if you stagger them, like then.
Right, whatever. it
I
is.
anticipate
7
that
years?
bond is gonna be what the recommendation is. And that is gonna help us with safe schools. We're gonna pass the bond with safe schools and athletics.
absolutely.
And then I'm fixing the buildings
Well,
while
then we
we're
can't
at
say
it.
no longer then.
So,
Yeah.
So what I was gonna say
Also
is, I
7.
think it would touch the community's heart if we actually did some things at the PAC to where they could actually watch something
Adopt a process.
and say, this is what, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
This is what we need, this is why we need to pass this, to be able to do these things.
And what I want to see is like,
Cause you know, like,
do a video.
Dina,
Don't you think that would be good?
Dina,
Well,
you need to
censor.
stop.
No.
We're not listening to Brady's little rants.
Subject
No,
matter.
I'm talking about like the little kid, like Brian Kelsey, how he does like a communication.
That's nice for Bryant. We all have our different styles, not
No,
nice.
no, but Dr. Anderson, what I'm saying for real is, I think that if we were able to bring,
No, I think that's an awesome idea, because.
No,
we
we
can
could
do
do
a
it
little
as-
presentation
yeah,
here.
to
that's
just
not
kinda
gonna
capture
make
the-
impact, but if we say.
So like how, so we kind of talked about the how,
Who's
who's
involved,
involved, and then how often.
It
So it's just-
actually,
So.
this is still close enough
That reviews.
that they feel,
Curriculum.
they knew what their feelings were when they
Ensuring-
got that call or that text message from their parents saying it's locked down. And you see those
They align
15 or
with that.
5 helicopters up there and people lining the street. That has enough of an impact that tells me that we're gonna pass a bond.
right.
Yeah,
And-
I like it.
and
And that's what I'm saying, is you know when they just go in there and do like the DUI, before prom, and
Yeah.
something like that to
Adoptive
really let
process.
parents.
When they see the car
But that's what I'm
crash,
saying,
oh.
Values
Yeah.
curriculum to ensure they align,
Oh,
to
no, we
ensure
can
that
post
they align
it.
with state and
Not-
district
well,
standards.
we don't have to be.
Subject
It's just,
matter.
I don't even take a picture of myself.
I'm just saying, like, but we need to
Um,
get it other than just being a video here, like getting how to post those things, so that it's out.
Recommendations.
It needs to be strategic, it needs
Yes.
to tell the right story, and that's where, here, is what I would probably do is just maybe start with brainstorming, what are the things that you feel are important when it comes to safe schools?
Base.
When you guys have your list, then you might say, these are the 3 things we know we wanna have in place at this point.
And that's basically two,
Occur.
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so, I mean, the plan itself actually had, I mean, once you get the template, it's just really feeding a lot of stuff in. So I don't know what the time frame is, but I believe it is coming out sometime this spring. So I think it is reasonable for us to have something in place in July.
I don't, this isn't right.
So would
but-
you think that like new teacher orientation, substitute packets, like those things, I mean, cause those are things we should be doing anyway, right?
Those should be
Subject.
things, but the priority
Area
is the
/grade.
overall plan.
Does that make sense?
But some of those are secondary steps.
Right, but I'm saying those are affordable.
Do you have to say anything about the state?
Those things. like-
So, yeah,
we
that's,
should
so
not
adopt a
say,
process
because those
utilizing
things should
community and
not.
parent stakeholders to
From their
evaluate
experience,
curriculum,
or
ensuring
They align.
it aligns with state and district
State
standards
school standards in this district.
by grade and subject matter,
Yeah.
period.
But we are
Recommendations
doing lockdowns.
for new curriculum
We are doing
adoption
fire drills.
based on this evaluation to occur.
You know,
No later than 7 years
look at
old.
all of the different things that they talk about when it comes to safe schools.
You have to add that,
You know,
right,
putting the vestibule, putting these kind of fencing, putting these kind of
Mhm.
things.
The 7 years,
That's
yeah,
right.
but.
I'm telling you
Probably not.
that, Sandy Hook had almost every one of those things.
Right,
And within 10 minutes, you had 21
right,
first graders dead.
yeah.
So it's perceptual. It's these deterrents.
presented to the board
Nothing's gonna
based
stop
on-
somebody with a gun getting into any campus across the country. So there are things that we can do. We need to make sure that they know how to lock the door, that they're getting down, they're staying silent. Those are the key pieces that we need to make sure that happen, and it
Well,
happened
we can move
in
a curriculum,
90%
ensuring it
of
aligns with
classes,
state and district standards
last week.
by grade and subject matter.
We had a couple of
For new curriculums.
hitches, but nothing
Adoption.
to one new teacher, first year teacher, heard lockdown,
Based
she
on-
got a fire drill, so she walked out
No,
with her
some-
entire class.
But like something like police presence, like how do we get, we'd have to like this and we'd see if we can have more police presence.
You know what, plus, yeah, and the other thing is,
The things that
I think
would be free, and we talked about this before.
that also
was, like,
doesn't
just
fit
the
with our
time.
1 year.
Yeah.
So I think creating a process.
One of our greatest
7 years.
benefits.
Or like, that's a long time, people.
Probably 5
So, but
Wednesdays
adopting,
on that campus
because
every
there's so
summer
many,
doing
like you
drills.
can't obviously do.
So they know the nooks and crannies of
So
our
adopting a
campus.
process.
But the challenge
So do
once
you have to
again
put a
is we
timeline
need
on
20
it?
different keys
Didn't say that.
to open
Because
up.
we just want to create the process
So,
for it
and
to
we don't-
occur, right? Against
You say evaluation,
All
or
the time, you know how many Chromebooks are out and they have keys?
isn't it constantly
based
evaluated?
on this,
How is that?
well, no, because it hasn't in the past, because
Because
nothing's happened.
I know, but that's what we're trying to change, right?
Right, exactly.
So can't you
So-
say
That's why
curriculum?
our killing is scary to me.
So do you think if we just
So
put a
we
period
have-
here and got rid of
That's a
that?
big issue that we need to deal with. So
Period.
that is a monetary, probably 30 to 40,000.
Recommendations for
that
new curriculum
campus.
adoption
I am
to be
preferring
presented
to
to
hold
them.
it
But
back.
then I feel like there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
time period.
Electronic scanner.
Why
So
can't it
then
be presented yearly?
we give 5 keys to the
What's
police, we
happening
give
in
5
what's-
keys to the fire department,
Right, and
you guys have
or-
access to every one of our
Because
buildings.
I think that you're
every
not,
one of our spaces.
I think it would be too much to say,
Safe.
to evaluate
So-
every
So we have to
grade
list the things that we
section
think
every year.
will-
Like, then
What
it's
are the
too
things
much.
that you specifically want to
Because like you
see?
put that
So
in
things
the
that-
calendar
but
in place,
things that we don't-
so then it kind of creates.
Oh, never
a
mind,
process.
The things that we're gonna use for the bond, we aren't gonna list because it's not gonna be.
Well, you can list it, but then narrow it down to the things that
So I don't know
are
how you- how
attainable
we capture
in that
that.
time bound.
And you want us to narrow it down?
Which I guess
to
this is,
2 or 3, okay.
Okay. How are you doing today?
Very busy. How were the toys? Very much.
I'm sure they were very appreciative of it. So, on page 3.
Every 7 years, I think. I guess it would be.
So both up into groups of 2. Cami and Dina are working on questions 33 and 34, which had to do with safe schools. Jody and Chelsea were working on curriculum process and ensuring the educational is rigorous. And then we got number 3 on our count on protocols for communication. So the board will assess the district current communication protocols together with district staff, identify ways to better disseminate internal and external communication. So we are supposed to use a SMART goal. So what specifically is the governing board looking for when it comes to internal and external communication? How are we going to measure that? How are we going to know that when we say we want what's happening? Is it achievable? You know, I want every person to have every piece of communication every day, every moment in time. Well, is that really attainable? No. So let's see what is attainable that would be realistic for us, and then time bound. So the conversation we had at the beginning was, what do we mean by time bound? We have our self-evaluation that we give out in October.
So how do we say
Are
that?
approving our self-evaluation in November. So it makes sense that our goal should be going through to October of next year. So whatever we determine when it comes to this communication protocol, every quarter we'll get presentation of where we stand or where we are on this path of getting there, and then where are we in October.
Specific, right?
So what I specifically said I wanted number 3 because I've been working on some communication pieces. So communication protocols that we've talked about. Question 69. Let's look at that first. So communicate.
And then fire and medical to understand, like, even like a floor plan or something.
So most of the time and some of the time is what our responses were. So we're going to come back probably in about 20 minutes and kind of see where we are on this. So I know you just walked in and you probably have 10 things in your head, so.
I'm not thinking that, I'm trying to figure out how communication is going to be measurable. I think it's something that isn't necessarily measurable. It's something that we need to do. It's something that we need to improve upon. But I'm trying to think of ways that we would measure it. What's happening is we don't find out that it's adequate or inadequate or needs improvement until after the fact of situations that needed timely communication. I think the timing of communication is an issue. And so I'm trying to think of ways that we would measure that. I don't know how we would measure that. There's some things that just we need to do but aren't necessarily, measurable.
It makes it very difficult with the
Yeah.
SMART goal format. Now let me think about that for a minute.
So we're basing our board goals off of the self-evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So these are what we had talked about with Nikki. So this is what these were the common themes that we had as our concerns. And then we combined 1 and 2 because those questions were next to each other and both had the same safety, school safety. And then questions 41 and 42 had to do with the ed services side of the house.
Okay.
So so one way you can measure communication, but then it would be sending out kind of a climate survey to the community and to the staff that basically says, how would you rate communication at this point? Get a measure, and then we measure it again in a year from now.
Well, when we talk about communication, who are we talking about communication from? The
Well,
board?
this says internal and external.
Are we
and so-
talking about board members? Are we talking about administrative positions? Or are we
Well, this
talking?
is your goal, so it would be governing board.
Okay, so the governing board's communication to the community?
The board will assess the district current communication protocols. So that's what this says. This one says communicate proactively to disseminate information to address. So the work itself here comes down to us at the district office. So the board will assess, so what protocols that you might see that need to be put into place, but that once again is not measurable as the protocol, other than it's been done or it's not been done. I'm sorry. It is in this refrigerator. Thank you. So sorry. I'm sure it's cold. So our current protocols that we have in place is we, from a district level, we have a community newsletter that goes out quarterly and a monthly newsletter that goes out to staff.
Okay, so we have a, let me write that down, so I can see it. It was a monthly,
A monthly staff newsletter,
Instructions.
a quarterly community newsletter, and both of those were not in place 2 years ago. So those are what we started doing this last year.
so what kind of things specifically do we want in the newsletter?
Like,
So
for me, it would
in,
be
what I've talked with Sally about in the last couple of months is the fact that I see that the community newsletter and the staff newsletters look identical at times. So what is the information that we give to our internal staff? So that's where payroll might have messages, something about benefits, a human resource, put in the information about immunizations, but then we also put the immunization information into the community one because we need our kids to be immunized as well. But we're not going to give them our benefits and our payroll and that kind of information. We give good news stories about kids into both of them, good news about staff into both of them. And then we do the press releases as well. So the press releases that Sally will send out to a specific school if it's on a specific child or in addition to the newspaper.
And then also
She does the Mythbusters and gets on the Facebook and try to correct some of the misinformation that might be present on there.
So Mythbusters is strictly Facebook?
Yes, Facebook on our site as well as
creating
AGA discussion
like
sites.
memorializing a procedure, so
Like we saw the other day.
kind of, but it would, to me, it'd be like a little bit more specific.
And then,
so
of
like,
course, at the school level, they have their own newsletters and other things that they send out.
More
Okay.
specific, but like so for elementary English, like.
And then a protocol we have with the governing board is our updates, our weekly updates to you.
What? What?
Updating the websites.
Gates are open.
We have to check for identification,
Right now, we're trying to make sure that we have email addresses. We're, once again, pushing that. There were about 200 plus emails that were not present at the high school level.
Parents were-
Yeah.
Creating like a.
And so, we don't have email or we don't have that. Chelsea, we met with her earlier today and each one of the departments met with her just individually and gave them some updates. But she had a good idea about text messaging, and I haven't even thought about text messaging when it comes to notifying our parents. But I do know that School Wires, which is our website, does have a module for that, so we're gonna look into that because, you had somebody on the news or somebody who said, it would have been nice if they would have sent us an email, and the parent said,
Yeah, so
"Not great."
right?
Okay, so this is evidently one of the parents that doesn't have an email or doesn't have it on file. But I guess that other parent said to this parent, have you updated your information at the school? So I'm glad the parent said that to the other parent. But, most people have a phone. So if we can get a text message
Yeah, maybe that.
component that we'd be able to
So
send.
that's kind of it. So this is
High
right,
school
because this
with
is more like
lockdown, police are checking the classrooms, we'll keep you updated. Something like that we
So
could
part of
have
that
got out to the parents, because somebody might not have checked their email for an hour or so until somebody saw something on the news and tapped them on the shoulder, didn't your child go to?
So each individual school would send out a text message to parents?
No, it would come from Sally.
Okay.
No, so Sally has access, I have access to every email phone number in the district, outside the district. So she could have, she did send entire emails out to all staff members. She did send out emails to the entire parent population that we have emails for. So she has that capability. At Desert Vista, they can only send out to their school.
based on that calendar, it was like,
Okay.
if I remember right, it was like one a year, right?
Oh, okay.
But again, that's actually adopting it. This goal is to create the process.
Mhm.
I think we should suggest this.
So thinking about 10 months, is there a specific protocol that you want us to work on in that time frame? So just like what I said to the two ladies over there when they're talking about safe schools, I said, you know, just start by just brainstorming a list of all the things that you are thinking about when it comes to safe schools.
Okay, so
Then narrow it down to
How
one,
do
2, or
you
3
know-
items, depending on
So,
the amount of
if our-
stuff
if
that
this is our
takes
goal,
place on that.
how do
And
we
just
know
say, you
it's
know, by
gone?
October of this, well, the piece with them is the state is coming out with a new safe schools template. So a good goal might be that we are implementing the new state safe schools
But-
template
but
by
that's
July of
for-
2019.
So,
You know,
but that's
and
for
you might say you want to make sure that training is in place, how are we communicating this out to our families? And then the next layer of safe schools, because there are so many layers that I know that need to be put into place, that this might be an ongoing goal for the governing board for a number of years until all those pieces get put into place. Communication could very well be one that's an ongoing indicator as well.
So in a way, I kind of feel like some of this is already done. Because we did the thing together.
Yeah, because I feel like to me,
So,
that is what.
The self-evaluation questions came from the
That was
ASBA.
what we already did.
Yeah, so this is a research-based evaluation tool.
Mhm.
Um,
So it
Timeline-
kind of dictates
timeline.
what our goals are gonna
Like
be.
a timeline.
Which to me, it doesn't seem like it's individualized to our specific needs. Some of it is, but some of it seems like the board should be deciding, we should, as individuals, figure what our priorities are as far as goals for the board, come together and go from there. I mean, I don't mind using this tool, but it almost too strictly dictates what we're gonna work on as a board, which I don't think is appropriate.
Well, if you remember, these were the things that we had identified as
Mhm.
6 questions standard, identify the participants' further discussion. So things that stood out to us. So it was.
Based on the communication, the questions that we were asked, though.
When relevant.
We were asked specific, we got certain results based on the specific questions that we were asked, which I think is good, and I think it's a good tool to use. But as far as the goals that we want to work on as a board over the next 10 months or a year, whatever, I don't think should be just this. I think we need to mull over what as individuals, we have as priorities and implement that. Figure out the board as a whole, look at each individual board member, what they would suggest as being goals, and prioritize those, and decide, okay, this one can kind of go on the back burner maybe till next year, but this is something we want to implement and include it in with this. This, to me, just seems like it's binding us too much to only this.
Well, these are the standards for governing board.
Mhm.
So,
I understand.
so I'm going to use teacher evaluation. So the 8 practices.
Presentation, like the.
I'm sorry, the practices for teaching are the same
Yeah.
across the country. These are the
Like, of the
standards that they say good teaching practices are, not the actual
So that was
content
N1.
standards, but this
I have
is
another
teaching
one.
practices. And so
Like,
evaluations are developed based on those standards. So it's very similar to this type of
I
thing.
guess it wouldn't be a
Now,
principal, it would be
if
presentation, but it
what
would
we
be a,
decided
like,
on that particular
adoption,
day as where our, these were the key areas, key themes that came up,
Like when.
then it was brought to this piece on specific questions. If these are questions that you don't think are hitting the priority, then I think when we come back in a little bit,
Adoption presentation.
that we can talk about that and see where are those priorities. We might end up saying we only have 2 goals right now. And you know what, we've got a little bit of work that we want to do with communication, but that might not be one of the goals that we want to have at this moment in time. And so that is really about everybody coming up to an agreement on where is our time and our focus going to be on, which none of us have enough of that.
Yeah, like the communication thing, I don't see that as being a priority for being a goal for the board. It's something that we need to keep track of. and we need to keep checking in on.
Feeling recommended by.
My thought process just went completely in a different direction. If this board is thinking in 2 years that we're gonna go for an override,
But by that.
we have other things that we better get in place
Like by
before
the-
that ever happens, or it's not gonna
evaluation
happen.
group?
And,
Okay, yeah.
I think these things are important, but not necessarily, these are things that we need to, like I said, check in
How do you-
on, but these are
like
things
by-
that staff need to focus on.
Recommended by.
So what is something that's standing out to you?
So-
That
Uh,
includes those
teacher
people?
retention
But these
is,
people
They're
is
included in that evaluation.
a big deal.
committee.
Yeah, and they're
And,
already done in that process, they're not.
And I would say
included,
again,
it's
if
just
we're,
included in the new
if
one,
there's
you know?
any inclination of going for an override in 2 years, the time to start is now. Not a year from now, not a year and a half, not 6 months from now. We need to get busy now.
Well, we're bringing a recommendation to you in the spring for November of 2019.
Yeah.
So,
Evaluation.
yeah, and that's already been started, some of those processes. That's one of the goals that I had on my list.
And so to me, if we're gonna do that and make sure that it's successful, we need to be starting with a list of what is it gonna take to get it passed. Obviously, communication is a big deal. It's gonna be, it'll be one of them.
So you're saying rather
I just
than
want,
possibly that one, it
I
might
just went in a
be
different direction than this.
election preparation. Maybe, and actually, I agree with that, very much so, because that's,
That's something that we
That's
gotta
huge.
focus heavy on.
Mhm.
And then, so we need
but
to break
it's
that down.
tied with this stuff, though.
Yeah. So
It's
we
tied
need-
with all three of those.
Yeah, so we need to break it down. We need to work on what's happening with our, all the different facilities. Work on the communication. Communication is gonna be huge to making this pass.
Mhm.
So it does, it does tie into some of these.
So we kind of already did that.
So Jody, what time did you want us to come back?
We have till.
We're ready.
I had 5 o'clock that we were gonna talk about communication.
Okay, so I will be ready in like 5 or 10 minutes. Is
Are you
that
guys
too
We're
long?
ready. We're just looking at some school safety on different schools, so whenever you
Okay.
guys are ready.
We're almost, we have like 2 sections. to finish.
Okay, so if we looked at that,
So curriculum
and
evaluation.
this is tied
yes,
in with
we'll
internal,
see.
external communication, I'm gonna keep holding on to that one a
Yeah.
little bit.
No, for sure, because communication is huge.
So if we.
Internal and external.
So,
December 2018.
this actually fits perfectly in that timeline because
Dr.
if
Presentation.
election
Okay,
was
so
in November
this is gonna be
2019, so
more
we're time bound to
different
the election.
steps
So,
Yeah,
our
so
specific
like-
goal is,
But
to
the,
pass.
but specifically, so
Um,
the progress to this one.
The recommend,
would
so
be,
what's happening in the January is a group of individuals will start going through the list that we've created of,
Proposals and
here are our curricular
presentations.
needs, here is our facility needs, here is our M&O needs, and start asking questions, and what is that implications when it comes to taxes and all of those pieces. And then that group is gonna come down and kind of, well, I think this is the one that we might be able to pass. They're gonna come to the governing board with a recommendation. My guess is with safe schools and some of the facility needs that are there, that
Throughout
a
the
bond will probably be the
curriculum.
recommendation. It will help us fix our
Adoption
campuses,
process.
put the safety features in the campuses that we know that are lacking right now. But we'll see what that group comes up with. But if we said
let's
to
say
pass a
quarterly.
override/bond in November of 2019, that we have something specific and we have it time bound.
Monthly.
And then where's this other document?
Do we know how much it costs for the district to run an election?
It probably tens of thousands, I don't have the number.
About 30?
I had 60 in my head, but I'm not positive. It was about 30 for our governing board election.
Isn't it cheaper if we're in with other elections?
You know what, it's actually gonna be
Yeah.
less expensive in November of 2019 because it's an all-mail ballot. There's no polling places, it's all,
Okay.
so that one will be less expensive because of that piece of it, but it is less expensive
I think
when
there should
you've
be
got like the
something like
president's race or the governor's race. When you have all this other stuff there, it reduces the cost because you're not the only thing on the ballot.
I think, yeah, I think.
Man, I I don't know how we're gonna get ready that quick for November of 19.
Oh, we're ahead of the schedule is what I'm being told by everyone. They usually don't make the call until April and say, okay, tell me how I'm gonna get something passed till November. We've met with Stiefel and already started putting pieces in place from our side that we needed to have.
Recognition, not
So we've got our needs assessment pretty much done across the
Oh my
board.
gosh.
I do need to get somebody coming out from our Valley Schools Insurance Trust who will walk our facilities again with Larry, because Larry put numbers in. But this is somebody who actually has done something in the last couple of years, so they know what the true cost of concrete, asphalt, roofing, and then we'll have that all updated so that we know we need a $60 million bond to pass, whatever it is. That's the one. It just passed a $300 million
Are we supposed to be writing
bond.
on that?
They're much larger than us, so we're not going to be there.
Are we supposed to be writing?
Yeah, they don't have the tough community that we have.
Ours is,
So we just
They
like follow
were
the
very
format.
specific.
I got a blank piece of
Passed it.
paper.
And they only passed this other one by 200 votes.
Well, that's okay.
So it was close.
Very close.
So,
That's fine.
Alright.
Okay.
Well, we started that way. We started with chicken scratch and
So-
turned it into this.
Yeah.
So
that's
the
what we
measure-
brainstormed.
is really, does it pass or doesn't pass?
Oh, this is what you guys did before.
As far as,
Yeah, that's, we got 50.
So,
So then,
obviously, we're gonna have to come up with some kind of a brochure
Mhm.
or something, and.
We've been collecting them for the last
so then
2
what will
years.
happen is.
Are we gonna do a
Get back
mailer,
together
or
and-
what is that gonna look like as far as communicating?
I think,
And then once like we finalize it.
so what I
then in
envision for
June, it'll be on
a
the-
mailer, especially if it's a bond election, is you have,
Part of the
say this is HA High School.
Like we'll,
This
make
lists
sure
all the
that we
schools.
do this and send you the agenda.
This could be fencing, this could be a vestibule in the office so that you don't have to get buzzed into a room. This is parking lot. That we make it very clear that you pass this, your child attended AJ High School. These are all the projects that are in that, so that we're making it more meaningful to that parent instead of saying, oh, we're gonna get parking lots, we're gonna get roofs, and not being specific about how is this impacting my child at his or her school. So that was one of the flyer pieces that we're gonna do. We've been collecting from multiple districts, just so that we can see how they're approaching it, and then are they successful?
Because then it's like.
Every bond, I believe it was every bond passed at the last election across the state. Almost every capital passed, except for I think 2 or 3, and then some M&Os are the ones that struggled. But it had a much higher passing rate in many of the areas than previously. Are we ready?
I'm ready, whenever you guys are, or we're ready, I should say.
We're not necessarily ready over here, but we're ready to have further discussion. Well, that'd be accurate. Oh, I've been holding on to the chocolate, so if anyone wanted some roche or whatever they're called.
I'm good.
I'm good.
You could just land them in my spot.
And I will
Pass them over to Tammy.
Okay. I'll take your purse too. It's fine. I like Joy's purse better. Take all her money.
Okay.
Chelsea, can you throw that over there?
All right, so you guys want to go first since you had 1 and 2?
Sure. So we just took notes and.
Okay, so, yeah, so,
So do you,
I don't think we were able to narrow it down to 3 though.
kinda.
Okay.
A little bit. So ironically, we're kinda talking about the,
So we're on school safety.
do you want us to do it different? Yep.
go for it.
Okay.
So should we read the question? Like, you wanna
Read that first. So where's that? No, this, like the goal statement, I guess.
Okay, so one,
It's, the board will review current health, safety, security, accessibility protocols to ensure that they comply with standards by blank. So, we, for school safety,
Well, first, one of the things that we have to do is we have to look at our policies. We have to see what the state is enforcing, which should be coming out soon. And then, what was the other thing?
and then we come up with a
And then we come up with a plan. So, some of the things that we wanted to see, we narrowed down to the 3.
So when we talked about our plan, we kind of brainstormed and we had like staff training. We looked up, there's like some protocols like school incidents where they have like a tracking system. And then there's like a tip reporting system. So those were kind of like things
Okay,
that
so
others.
tell me what, okay, so your specific goal, what did you guys write specifically?
So
So
like,
we-
what's that, did you come up with like a statement of what the actual goal is?
Well, we were asked to come up with narrow it down to 3 things. And so specifically, we were talking about the communication and how we were gonna put the information out there.
So tell me, where do you get the 3 things?
Well, Dr. Anderson
Okay,
asked us.
so they were
sorry.
talking about a lot of things when it
A lot of
came to
things.
safe schools.
Okay.
And I said, so brainstorm the things that are important to you for
Okay.
safe schools, and then maybe narrow it down to 1 to 3 items.
Uh-huh.
So that's what that's where the 3 came from.
Right.
So the 3 items you identified were important, was communication.
The communication and basically how we were putting the information out to the businesses, the staff, the parents, the surrounding schools.
About what the process is.
Right.
Okay, communicate process. Okay.
Of, communicate process of what?
If there's an emergency. Like say, there's a lockdown or there's an actual true emergency happening, how is that communication coming from the site
Right.
out to the public so that we can alleviate the emergency as quickly as we can? So that's what you're saying, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the second one was basically the drills of how that would take place, like if the map, the lockdowns procedure.
So you're talking about the actual plan.
Right.
Correct.
An actual plan.
Actual plan, yeah.
Okay, so the district does have a plan. It is an old plan. It has not been revised in some time. So we know that the state is giving a new template out this spring. So part of number 2 here could be that we implement the new state plan.
Right.
That
when it comes out.
we take the template, we feed our information into it, and we implement the plan sometime in the future.
So like, yeah, so like the goal would be, read me that, what you said again for the second one?
Well, we were basically just brainstorming like the
Oh, the
process
lockdowns.
of it.
Like, so
Yeah,
for
the
me,
lockdowns.
like for a board goal, it would be, okay, as a district, we want to have this many lockdown, or this many, what, cause like, it's more, or a policy that,
Right.
and
And we
then
have to look at those stuff.
we, on our goal, like how it's done, who's doing it, and how often she's responsible for like
Right.
doing it.
Right.
But we have to look and we didn't pull the policies on what we have already.
Right.
To see
So
what
the
it
goal
states in
could
there.
be review,
The
update
policies,
the policy
correct.
to adhere to the state
State
standards
standards.
by the state.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. What was the 3rd thing that you guys had identified?
Well, I guess the end part would be obviously the funds to do it, so that's where
Going over a bond.
the bond would come in.
Identify funding source to
Correct.
support
The plan.
Safe Schools Plan.
Right.
And so, an asterisk, like, a suggestion is, and we kind of talked about this over there, so I was just gonna say it as a whole. Maybe like having the police and the fire department and the city kind of come together and, there was a district that did like a grand opening and they talked about, they had the parents involved and the kids had training and.
This was a brand-new school that opened?
Right.
Okay.
But, I mean, even as us, has this ever happened, or could we do it again to where we're kind of making sure that we're keeping up to speed with situations?
So say that again.
So yes, this was a brand new school, but we could treat this as a brand new school. Like, when's the last time we've done any kind of training or crime prevention situations to where we made sure that this was implemented?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like
Yeah,
the
so,
suggestion.
so that goes kind of back to what something Jody had said is, number one, we know that the state is giving us a plan, and in the plan, it very well may have recommendation of, I'm used to fire drills once a month.
Mhm.
I'm used to 4 lockdown drills a year. The lockdowns, you had to have at least one that was an unscheduled one that nobody knew about. Fire drills, you're supposed to choose to do fire drills at inconvenient times, during passing time, at the end of lunch, at those times in which I don't have the 35 kids in my room at this point that I can walk out in a single file out to the thing and call. No, these kids are scattered to the wind. Now, how do we take that into account? So that plan, I don't know what it looks like at this point to know if there's some specific direction on recommendations of
But
practices.
for me, like, our goal is policy. It's not specifics. We're not safety officers. That's somebody else's job.
Mhm.
But what's
Our
our
goal
policy?
is to ensure we adopt a policy that meets those standards or stricter standards if we so choose, and then you guys are responsible for doing it.
So
And in those policies, it could state that. So if we want to have trainings, or we want to have.
that's regulations.
Right.
And the regulation is actually done by the district.
Right.
Now, so you create the policy, and the policy could be that we have, that we update our safe schools yearly, that we have for,
So a goal could be that we
Yeah.
review the policy by whatever.
review and
date,
update whatever the policy
utilizing
is.
the new-
Yeah, and what I said to them over there is that with us getting a template in the spring, this template should go into implementation in July of 2019. It should be for next school year. So that can give us a time bound earlier than that October. But what we could say in the October is that with ongoing training, the other piece when it comes to our safe schools, Cammie had a great comment about, well, what about substitutes? So if there was a substitute on that
Yeah,
campus.
that came up, actually.
You know-
That happened, the substitute didn't have a key. They
Yeah, I
came
heard
and
that
unlocked the
too.
door for her, didn't have a key, so she had no way to lock her door.
Yeah, so we know keys were an issue. We are aware of that. So, being a substitute, there was one orientation, I was in another school district, that when I had the orientation, it was, they did it every Wednesdays. You were given 4 hours that you went in there for orientation, and part of that was they gave you a snippet of safe schools because, on first day of school, there might be an emergency, and the principal, with only having a day with your staff, may not have gone over the safe schools procedures, but everybody got it at this orientation, and everybody got information about a few other things at that point as well. And so, talking with Lisa and Jen, can we put that into orientation? Can we, Diana, when you onboard our substitutes, can you go over safe schools protocol? The other thing Cammie talked about is, having a folder that you typically give to a substitute that says, here are your school rules, here is your lesson plans, here's your key, here's all this. Well, here's a flyer that if it's a lockdown, we're going into a lockdown, substitutes, please look at the yellow paper that's in the folder that was given to you this morning. Something like that could be part of the practice.
Yep.
So really, we have to look at what the state is gonna bring in, what our
But
policies
for me, like, the
are.
goal is, that's part of the goal.
Right, but what I'm saying, we still have to look at it, because we don't know what it's gonna say.
So
Right.
the thing that confuses me is the October thing, because we have a school year that starts in
July
July
1st.
now, and so it makes it weird to,
We talked about this before you got here.
it just makes it weird. It's like, I know we're rushed to try to get everything by July this year going, but
No. So we talked about this before you came in. So the board evaluation is on a calendar year, because that's what our terms are on a calendar year. So it's not on the school year, it's on the calendar year. So these goals will be for 2019.
Okay.
But something specific when it comes to the goal, like the Safe Schools Plan.
Yeah,
Should
within it, we
be-
could put that.
That's what I'm-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We could put
So
different
then
timelines in there.
we cut it down, but we would still give updates, because what we talked about also is quarterly updates, that,
Mhm.
you know, in July, or in June, in that governing board meeting, here's the Safe Schools Plan, blah, blah, blah. We come into July, we now have another 2.5 months before we give you an update again. But in that time, we can say, okay, we implemented the manual, but in the meantime, we've done X, Y, Z, so that we're continuing with training. We've added it in the orientation, we've done it this way so that we're continuing to build on that. And this is a big enough issue that this could be a 2020 goal as well, so that until we truly get to a place in which we got our locks and we have our fencing and we have our, whatever it is that we determine we need to ensure that every campus is basically a Fort
Our
Knox.
current goal could be around reviewing our current policy
Yes.
and implementing the new standard.
Yes, that would be very attainable, it's very realistic. We know we're getting that, we can have it ready and implemented in the 1920 school year.
Yeah, because I like to see what the state implements, I want to see what our policies say, and what we have in place right now.
So what I have down, and I'm gonna write it down on an empty, when I find a back of paper that's empty, is that,
Oh, yeah.
so let's write it out so that everybody is in agreement on that, so.
Can we use this format,
Mhm.
just so it's consistent?
Well, it's gonna take it and it's gonna be a one sentence.
Right.
So specific. So Dina, do you want to read what you wrote, or Jody, you rephrased it? One of you want to,
For our subject,
for your goal, yes.
you want to read the notes?
The AJUSD governing board will
So we're gonna review the policies that we have.
Current.
review current
Align them with the state.
safe schools policy.
Safe schools policy.
Right.
And update, we get quarterly updates.
Well,
Okay, sorry. Current safe schools policies to ensure alignment with the
With the state.
state's
Plan, or what is it called,
state's
template?
Safe schools I'm gonna make sure I get the
I
right
don't
word
know
in
what
there.
that is.
Safe schools template. And implement July of 2019.
Right.
I'll clean that up.
Are we gonna put the quarterly updates as part of that, or no?
Yeah, like so,
I think
under
that-
the progress steps and milestones,
Right.
like that's where.
Yeah, so it's a one sentence is,
Yeah.
we're
and
gonna
then you
review
have, like-
policies and procedures, ensure alignment to this, and that's gonna be done by 2019.
Right, so then, yes.
And then the quarterly progress is gonna be for all the goals.
Mhm.
So that'd just be the procedure on, and making sure that we are seeing progress on that. So that when we come back in probably the February work session, or March, it's gonna be February or March, we'll give you an update if we've received the template at that point. But in the meantime, we should have some
We can
time in
be
which you
looking
guys are
at
working at the policies and
policy.
seeing,
Yeah.
Right,
okay,
okay.
feel good about that one?
I feel
We
good.
should have followed, if we would have, that would have been our goal statement, we should have used this paper.
What did that say?
Well, we kind of used a blank piece of paper, but if we would have been able to express ourselves a little bit better if we put the goal statement with what we just said
Mhm.
under the goal statement, and then.
That's okay.
We got to the same place.
Follow
We got to the same place, there is no
Different
wrong.
route.
There's
Okay.
nothing, you can't do anything wrong.
And so when we get the template, we'll put the template in the governing board update so you guys can read through it.
Mhm.
In the update this week, I will identify the policies and I'll put, actually, my section's already a full page, so you guys are gonna get a multi-page this week, but I'll identify the policies and just link the policies in there for you guys to take a look at. Okay, so that's number one.
So the policies, and then you said there's something that's in place that's so old.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I'll see if I can get the hard electronic copy from
Okay.
Jen to put that in there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to read it or do you want me to?
You want me to read the statement?
Sure.
You want me to read the question first? Here's number 3, right?
We combined them.
Oh, yeah.
3 and 4.
3 and 4. I'll just read the statement. Adopt a process utilizing community and parent stakeholders that evaluates curriculum, ensuring it aligns with state and district standards by grade and subject matter. Recommend for new curriculum adoption to be presented to the board based on this evaluation to occur no longer than 7 years from the previous adoption. I'm gonna read it again. Or did you get
I remember we talked about the number of years, and why did we land on 7?
It was like 5 to 7.
I know it's hard because if you do it every
Because there's
couple
so
years, the
many
teachers are
different
trying to
grades and
catch up.
Subject matters. like
Okay.
you'd Be doing multiple at once.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a 2-year process to adopt,
Mhm.
but from the point in which we get the materials, that's where 7 years. We may end up being 8 years with the K3, because somewhere along the line, we're gonna wanna tie it back to the 4-6, because that all should be in 1
So
year.
it's done at the same time.
Yeah, but we didn't have the funds to do that last year, so, yes, so read that again to me, please.
Adopt a process utilizing community and parent stakeholders that evaluates curriculum, ensuring it aligns with state and district standards by grade and subject matter. Recommend for new curriculum adoption to be presented to the board based on this evaluation to occur no longer than 7 years from the previous adoption.
Okay, I can already tell you, the one piece that won't fit in that is that we went through that process for K3 with the 4-6, because K3 has already been, we want it to be consistent. Because if we go out there and they say, oh, now I like X curriculum materials for 4-6 that are not aligned to the K3, so.
Well, but I think that we said not necessarily to adopt, but at least to evaluate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you may not.
Okay.
Does that
I'm
work
gonna
or
get
not?
that document.
We can change it.
I have to think about that one a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, it needs to be
That evaluates
realistic
curriculum.
for us to make sure we can get
Yes.
that done.
So would we be giving them options of what's available, or what looks like it's a trend, or what does that look like?
So how that process looks is, and it actually can be different for elementary versus high school. However, I'm always used to doing what you do for the high school for everybody, and so that's the process we used for our elementary K3, which is you go out for our RFP. So when you go out for an RFP, you say, I want K3 reading materials. I want it to have an emphasis on on phonics. I want a writing component. I want it to be leveled so that with my special ed, my EL, and my gifted students, that there is leveled curricular materials to help support that diverse group of kiddos in the room. So you put in all the things that you want. Then our purchaser sends it out, and it goes to all of these different vendors. Or actually, it goes to these couple of sites, and these vendors can go to these sites and look at it and say, oh, I have a product that will meet that need. And so then they put in something that then Cheryl comes back and says, we've had 8 people respond to our RFP. Then a group of individuals go through the RFP to say, did it really have everything I said I wanted? You can respond, but I only had 2 out of the 8 things that I truly wanted. Well, that can rule that one out already.
Okay.
So now it could be down to, we really only have 3. So at this point, you typically will narrow it down to the top 3, and then the vendors come out and the committee will get like an hour presentation by each one of the vendors where they get to show you the colored books, and here's how you can do an intervention, and here's how you can do with gifted. And then they will typically say, okay, these 2, we now want to get enough books that we send it out to each site receives something for the K3 so that they could actually look at it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And some people could try a few things out.
And then the committee comes back after a couple of weeks and say, okay, we've had opportunity to look at the two, we heard the thing. I really like the McGraw-Hill, which is the one that we picked for K3, and we go that route. And so with the amount of money we had one of the vendors that said, we can, with the amount of money you have, we can give you K3. This vendor said we can do K2 for that same amount of money. So we went back to the K2 and said, well, this one will give us third grade. Well, they ended up throwing third grade on this one. And so this is where you want to do your negotiation and say, oh, we also want 15 days of training attached to that. McGraw-Hill, 2 years ago, and I don't know what they charged this year, but 2 years ago, it was $2,500 a day to bring them out for 1 day. So that's where you want to do, I get all these materials, I want the PD, and I don't want to have to pay shipping costs. And then you get the materials.
And so we can, as far as choosing some kind of a curriculum, or when we review it, we can take what our grades were across the district and say, well, we need to improve here, and so we would need this type of product. Would that,
so
can we, I guess what I'm asking is, and I'm assuming that's how we would do it, but I'm asking, can we look at where our kids are scoring and find out, where
the gaps are?
Yeah, where the gaps are, where they need help, and shape that to do them.
So this is our tier 1. So say our reading materials are tier 1, that's where 85% of our kids should be successful using the basic materials. But even within these materials, they have it differentiated, as I said before, that I can accelerate Chelsea over here, and I can remediate Jody over here, whatever it is I need to do. But we also know that not every material is going to meet every single need. So what you're talking about is, now we've implemented McGraw-Hill, but you know what? We see that there's a gap in X. You know what? A lot of times is then you have to start bringing in some other supplemental material that, you know what, we need to do something else. So that would be stage 1. Right now, we just want tier 1 materials in our class. That are updated, that are engaging the kids. Even a lot of the new materials will incorporate, their cell phones and things like that to get kids engaged in their learning, and that's what we want. And so I think what you've put in there makes sense. But let me process it a little bit. Let me have Heather look at it and then if we need to tweak it a little bit, we'll put that in the update as well and get you guys' feedback before January 8th, because January 8th is where we're hoping that you guys will adopt your goals, but I don't want us to push the goals and not have the right goals. Okay, so I'm going to get that in writing from you guys because it was...
Can I just want to make a copy of it.
Yep.
Right.
You want to talk about ours?
Well, we talked about communication, and I'm just going to say, when I came into the meeting, I came in with a little bit of a different mindset. I like that we did the board self-evaluation, but what I said to Dr. Anderson is that I felt like, and I think it's great, I think it gives us a baseline of what we want to focus on, but at the same time, I think it's almost kind of restrictive as to what we want to set as our goals. And so I had a little bit different of a mindset of implementing what individually that we each thought would be a priority, and come together as a group and kind of say, well, Chelsea, yeah, that's a good one, maybe, this one, and so I thought that would be a part of it, because to me, only doing the board self-evaluation results seemed a little restrictive. I was thinking in a way different as far as board goals. Coming into this, I thought, I was just thinking that we, as a board, we would have been working on different goals than specifically only what came out of the evaluation. So I don't know if that makes sense. That being said, we had talked about a bond override. We've been talking about a bond override coming up in November of 19. That panics me. I'm like, whoa, that's so soon. And so we have a lot, I think, to do to get ready for that. I had 2020 in my head. Don't know why that was, but but this does tie into the communications. communication is huge, huge for an override. You guys know that one of the things we keep hearing from the community is the school district is going out, they're asking for money, but we don't understand where where it's going, and we want better explanations. So the communication part of it does definitely tie into that if we're planning on.
So we talked about internal and external communication. So, one of the things that we talked about in our meetings is how do we improve communication overall, and those are some pieces that we'll continue to work on. But this goal could, and actually what I liked about this one was time-bound, because November of 2019 is right at the end of basically that fourth quarter. And that could be that what is the communication plan that we have when we make a recommendation to the governing board, and if the governing board chooses to call for an election, what does that communication look like internally and externally for that information? So that was kind of what we talked about, and it kind of goes a little bit not tied completely to what we had written in that document, but it makes sense to me, and so we thought we would approach that with you guys. Cami, you had something?
Yeah, so when we brought Dr. Anderson over to our table, if we were talking about this override or the bond or whatever we decided to do, we expressed to her that maybe we could do something in the PAC room to where we actually bring the fire department and the police officers and do some kind of presentation on how important it is for the school safety, and maybe not what we're lacking, but what we're needing, to be able to present it to the family and the communities, to be able to maybe touch them and understand how important this is, and then implement a list of really what we're going after and the reasons why. Because we know that we've attempted not so much a bond, but an override twice, to where we thought we had somewhat good community involvement, and it didn't work. And so we have to figure out some kind of strategic plan to make it an impact somehow. So if we did a presentation, and I use the example of just prom night, when they actually do the presentation of the drinking and driving, something for parents to understand these are the things that we're needing, and this is your child or the community's children that
Well, I will tell you what
we're lacking.
I'm sorry, go on.
No, I just some kind of.
And the piece that I'm kind of looking at is, I know that we haven't been able to pass something for some time, and I think the approach has been is what we need, and in my head, we need to create the plan of what we want to be, and we share that plan, and for this plan to come to fruition, these are the pieces that need to be put into place. So, instead of us.
It's more systematic.
Yes, instead of putting our hands out and we need, it's this is what we want for kids.
And this is what will happen.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of looking at it from that perspective that, if we are able to pass something in November 2019, this is what we're going to be able to do in curriculum. If it's a capital outlay election. If we want to go out for M&O, this is what we're going to be able to do. If we go out for a bond, this is what we're going to do. I love the idea.
This is when it will be done.
Yeah. And so I don't want it to be, I don't want any kind of threats. If we don't get something passed, this is going to happen. That's not going to happen. But I think that what Cami talked about is, especially if we go out for something that's going to impact our facilities, or, a capital or a bond, either one of those would be able to help us with some safe schools pieces. So to be able to say, school safety is important to us. And these are the things that we've done, and one of those things that we've done is that we had the SWAT team go out and work on our high school campus on Wednesdays during the summer. And so they got to practice drills, and they got to know our campus. And one of the things they said on Friday to me was, it was really great that we had that opportunity because we now knew your campus. That's awesome. So those are the things that we need to make sure that we're sharing out. But I love the idea of inviting the entire community to the PAC. No more than 640 can sit there, is what I've learned. But 640 people to talk about, what this plan is. And this is what kind of envisioning, and I think bringing the police and the fire department in to have opportunities for families to see what's crucial for us to ensure that children are safe. And a little bit of, giving them a little bit of reality. I mean, I think they saw a lot of reality here on Friday. When you're standing out there across from a school, knowing your baby is standing in one of those classrooms, and you don't know what's going on.
And it makes it hard. I mean, we have to remember too, those firefighters and those police officers have kids that are in the schools as well. Like, those are their children. So it was a huge impact for a lot of people, to where, you know, AJ was calling in Mesa because some of those firefighters were concerned with what they were going to encounter, and so they needed backup to ensure that they were even going to be able to, you know.
5 different agencies were here.
So
Okay, so let's go back to communication protocols, which are getting off topic. So the question that this was addressing was 69, communicate proactively to disseminate information that addresses issues throughout the system and the community. And so to me, that is important, and I think that we could create some very measurable goals to do that. So communications go out to the community via what, this many times.
So that, we did start with that we have a community newsletter that goes out 4 times a year. We've got monthly newsletters that go out to staff. We've got weekly communication to the governing board, with the exception over Christmas vacation. You are not going to get anything. Just
But
gonna
to
say
me,
that.
that's not what that is.
Mm-mm,
It's
not at
not that, to
Mm-mm.
disseminate information to the system, okay, yes, to the community, no.
Mm-mm.
So specifically to the community,
So
I
give me-
don't think we do a good enough job. I mean, I don't know who the newsletter goes to, but I can guarantee you my next door neighbor does not get the newsletter.
No, it doesn't go to, it goes to parents.
So how do we address the community? So is it social media? Is it newspaper? By who and how often?
And what's the content?
And what's the content?
Right.
And so to me, those are things that we can set up measurable things to accomplish, you know, with whatever frequency it is, that's gonna be better than what we're doing now.
So we see all the press releases that Sally Marks is sending out. I don't, you know, a lot of them don't make the paper. That's a start. That's something new. She gave the presentation and told us what we were doing. Personally, I think we need to increase social media. I hate to say it, but we just need to, it's just something that gets posted maybe on their district website and then just shared in the groups. You don't want to expect people to come to you. I know that would be ideal, but people aren't going to, instead of saying, you got to come to us because here's our site, they don't do it, you got to get it to them. So where is the community? They're in meetings, community meetings, they're on social media. My question is, during the last election, we heard some candidates say that, I guess the city tweets a lot. I have no idea how to tweet or whatever. Do we know if our parents are tweeters? Are they tweeters?
Yes.
Let's start figuring out how to tweet, because that's an instant thing.
The middle schools, the elementary schools, the high schools, the athletics, they all tweet.
So they're tweeting.
They're already on there.
The district, and they're tweeting. Let's keep that going and maybe get, I don't know what it would take. So is Sally doing it then?
No, I do it.
Okay, so I would say let's make sure. So we really need, what we need to do is probably go to the community and say, okay, community, how can we reach you? Are you reading the newspapers? Probably the older folks are reading the papers.
Well, I think, yeah, lots of people read the paper. And
Probably.
I think, you know, if we said, okay, we're going to, Sally does the newsletters, and like you said, or the press releases, and like you said, some of them get in there and some of them don't. And I know you wrote something that was in there last week, but if that happens at least once a quarter, I think that is a big improvement from like what's been going on. If we did some more, so just quantifying, you know.
And I've been talking with Dana about getting something in the newspaper. I'm trying to get once a month. So maybe say 8 times, so maybe.
Okay, yeah, so we could work that into the actual goal, and then we could, that can be our.
Did you see that video that Bryant Powell did?
Yeah,
I did.
And he's starting to do that monthly now.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I told you.
Yeah, the YouTubes, they were quarterly.
I feel like that
That's
will give
important.
people, it's not just words, they're
It's
seeing
visual.
you, they're seeing
Yeah, I think
your
that's a good-
personality.
I'm sorry, I
your
said
vo-
it. You don't want to listen to me.
Your voice,
She
your,
shot me right
you
down.
know.
Yeah, I
And he
think,
used to only send that out to, I
it
think,
used to just be the
employees,
employees, yeah, but now
but now he's posting it,
To the
yeah.
community.
I have lunch with Bryant tomorrow, we'll have a conversation. Yeah.
But even if
But-
it's not just specifically you, but getting it out.
I can do my voice, I just don't like my face.
Right. Well,
And
I'm
this
just
is,
saying.
I think it should be her.
Well, I
For a
agree.
lot of reasons.
No, I
It could
agree.
be more than just her.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah. But I
Well, it's
think
just more
having,
than
I
Brian.
think having the
Yeah, it was
superintendent
just more.
is really important in those.
I agree.
And then, you know, oh, we're here at so-and-so, or, you know, we're here at, you know, and let
Yeah.
people
And then-
hear
Or
and
even
see.
more
like
you
you
do
were
it,
here
the
with the
easier it
teacher of
gets,
the
you
month
know?
and like talk
Exactly.
to them and, you
Yeah,
know.
and you can edit, you can edit
Personal.
until you get it right. You don't have to go live, they don't go
Yeah, 'cause
live.
that's gonna point
They
it
don't,
out
yeah, they don't go
again.
live, like, he does an hour
No, like,
taping
he
for a 30
edits
second
it.
clip.
Yeah, but we don't have anyone to do that.
Yeah, but, well, Russ was doing it,
JJ does it.
and Russ does it, we have Russ.
Yeah. So, yes, I looked at that little room yesterday as I was at the city council meeting. I went to the restroom, so I had to walk by. I saw Matt McNulty.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that's easily a $100,000 room.
Oh, there's a lot of new upgrades now, that, yeah.
I know it's probably
Yeah.
more than that, but I'm gonna say that little room is at least 100,000. I'm thinking,
That took a while to get to that point, that's not, yeah,
he was very kind. He did offer to come and look at our audio, so I'm going to give him a call
yeah.
and have him take a peek at
Okay, so
it.
do we want to write a goal out of this?
Well, what we need to do is, we need to figure out what, I don't read the newspaper, I don't know if you guys do, I might pick it up twice a year. And so how do we reach the community? We know newspaper, we know now maybe the YouTube videos, maybe increase the tweets, we know social media, so we want to reach all, you know, the
So I think that we
different,
could write something that
aspects.
encompasses all of
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
I
If you
think one of
stand
the.
over there, I can take a picture and tweet it out that you guys are working on goals.
I think one of-
That'd be a good idea.
Let's do it.
Go
And
sit
I-
over there.
And I think one of the important things that we have to do is
Focal
Virtual
bump,
Canyon.
yeah. Things.
So getting it out to like, maybe, I know Adobe has a newsletter. I don't know if
They
you
read
wanna-
the newspaper. It was
They
very
read the
cheap.
newspaper.
You have to get things out, like, remember I heard that in
The three ways.
3 ways, like, you have to have 3 lines of communication for all different kind of people.
Yep, she's got the Santa hat and all in the middle.
We're working hard.
Okay, wait a minute, I'm sure. Okay, everybody's eyes are open, everyone's smiling. We're good.
But yeah, we have to figure out how to reach Gold Canyon.
Okay, so then if our,
Don't they have a?
But if you're putting stuff in the newspaper, you're doing videos, social media.
yeah, then you're capturing those.
And what more
Well,
can
like,
you do?
you have like Mountain Brook, like the HOA,
Mhm.
like getting out to the HOA.
Well, the
I go
community
to
meetings is one
most,
she's
I go to
been
most.
there.
community meetings.
Things like that.
So
So the community meetings, social media, newspaper,
Mhm.
I mean,
So we're
Cover
covering
our
all
bases.
levels,
Yeah.
Yeah.
all different age groups,
So-
all different.
we will communicate proactively and disseminate information that addresses issues throughout the system and community by,
Numerous,
Engaging.
multiple, whatever, various,
wait, what did you just say?
multiple, various, numerous methods of, I don't know, what do you call it, media,
Lines of
communication.
By engaging the following lines of communication.
By engaging
By-
multiple
Multiple
lines of communication.
lines.
Modes, multiple modes of communication,
Modes.
Utilizing social media.
of communication,
such as,
Social media,
such as social media,
Newspaper.
newspaper.
print, well, let's put newspaper.
See, when Sally posts, like, she posts all this
YouTube.
good stuff on our website. Personally,
Community
I mean,
meetings.
there's a lot of us that share it, like Dirk and 411 will share all
Oh,
that
Cindy
stuff,
said.
I'll share it.
Okay, and then what's the frequency?
But if she shared it,
Well, we said the newspaper.
share it in the Gold
Once a
Canyon
month.
community.
Mhm.
Well, then
Share
we're
it
gonna
for all
use
the
all
trail
of these, so
residents.
So
Those two need to be a
for
part
all
of the
them.
AJ
communication,
groups.
such as
As far as sharing.
no less than one.
And then just, all she, it only takes a minute,
that
you just
work?
hit share,
Oh.
and then she can just pick the group, so maybe it would help Sally if we specifically named it.
yeah.
Do you think?
I think if you had a list of the key sites, then we can give that to her.
They have groups, they have Gold Canyon
You
Community.
just search
and
Gold
Peralta-
Canyon and
Peralta
all of
Trail
them-
residents.
all of them will
Please
come
make
up.
sure I don't have any misspelled
I
ones,
gave
'cause that's
Sally
always the worst
some,
thing is you tweet it out.
you know, different sites to push on our website.
That works, okay.
Like there's an.
You guys have been tweeted out.
I was like, I'm beating them in the back. It's like,
No, you were like this again. You were excited. You had your arms down on the first one, but I like the arms
When
going
we're
up.
done, I'll like your tweet. I'll
It's like,
retweet your
get to
tweet.
work, Candy.
I don't know how to tweet. How
I'm
do
not
you
very good
guys
at it,
know
but I
how to
do it.
tweet? And
I
I know how
don't.
to tweet.
That's what I
don't
said.
even
And
know
it's-
how to
and it- I think
That's what
that's
my
just,
brother does, so that's what I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if Chelsea would
There's
only sign up,
Instagram.
I'd have 115 followers. Come on, Chelsea.
Okay,
And you,
so we
116.
have.
No, I'm on.
Oh, you were on there,
I
okay.
thought so. I signed up when you first created it. It was at one of our training things, I thought.
So Joy, what you were reading, that
Yeah.
was,
I should be.
Well, maybe those are,
If not,
Well, you're reading
like I
that
said,
first.
I'm not a tweeter on this stuff.
Instagram is
Instagram's
bigger
fast.
right
That's
now.
another one, Instagram.
I've never been on Instagram.
Instagram is bigger than Facebook right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And Facebook is old for apparently the younger people,
Mm-hmm.
so
I'm not seeing you.
There's
Well,
kind of a
I'll
research.
go back and re-sign up or
Facebook's
something
these
again.
kids don't like.
Like I said, I
Snapchat, too.
don't know how to tweet, so I know I
I'm in a
signed up
class
when you
on
first
how to,
did it.
like, market and Snapchat, and I just can't figure, like, I haven't taken it, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyways.
Okay,
Do we have to?
So
we write this
should
down
we
on here?
specify it?
Do we have to specify how, like the
so
social media, or no, or just?
I don't think we have to specify the social media.
I
What
think that's
about-
broad?
Yeah. So, okay, so we have communicate proactively to disseminate information that addresses issues throughout the system and the community by engaging multiple modes of communication such as social media, newspaper, YouTube. I have community meetings, but I don't really like that. What's another word for like,
Neighborhood meetings?
I guess it work, because there could be
Public meetings?
public meetings. No less than one time a month.
Combined or individually?
Combined.
I am so sorry to interrupt, but.
I
one
just
of the-
responded yes.
Okay. One of the students that was testing over here is still testing and I have to leave. He's with a proctor, but I don't know how long the proctor can stay either. So can I tell him to call his dad and then he can come back tomorrow? Jen's not here and I don't really know what was set up at the high school. I was just kind of
Who's the proctor?
monitoring. It's one of the special ed teachers. They've had 3 different ones over here since 1:30.
And nobody's answering at the high school?
I'm assuming because the other 2 kids are coming back tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
So what was your guys' statement, what did you guys come up with? I mean, I know we summarized it, but what did you?
That
guys-
was pretty much what
What
we,
Jody wrote is what we
So-
have.
Okay.
we just talked through ours.
But I think like we should like say, like, I think social media should be more than once a month. I'm just saying.
You do more than.
So you want to
one on social media.
individualize and say, we
Social
want so
media.
many tweets
But
a
then you
month, so
can
many.
include that in your success
Right.
descriptors and then what we like
Yeah.
look at quarterly. Well, social media, yes, obviously. is what-
Yeah, I mean, newspaper
Social
once a
media needs
month.
No
to be
less
like
than.
3-4 times a day.
Yeah,
A day?
Yes.
Well, no.
I took a social media class, a Facebook class,
said that.
and for a business, it needs to be no less than 4 times a day.
To post more than 4 times a
Yeah.
day? Because
No
what I
less.
took was,
A week, at
Was-
least.
Yeah.
But you remember, we,
I get sick of posts. I think I blocked you because you were posting so much. I'm just kidding.
I can't do it,
I did
it's hard
less
for
than
me
an
to do
hour.
4 times a day.
I can't, it's too much. I get sick of people after a while, like, just like block.
But Facebook rewards you by how much you post and how much you comment and share.
Mhm.
So when you post it, puts it in people's feeds more and more and more. If that makes no sense.
when Sally, what I was saying is when Sally posts,
Mhm.
and don't just do it on the district Facebook page, share it.
To
But
every
let's
page.
specify which groups we have: Peralta Trail residents, Gold Canyon
Yes.
Community,
Valley.
and then pick whichever AJ groups, the 411, whatever ones we decide. But that way she's got a list,
I agree.
so that it takes less than 5 minutes, just bam, bam, because when I post our meetings,
Mhm.
it's like,
It takes 2
you can get them in the
seconds,
meetings,
yeah.
you can get them in all the groups really quick.
Right.
So, but let's give Sally a list, because she may not be consistent. Maybe she's hitting one group and not another. Maybe she's not hitting the Gold Canyon group, so let's give her a list of what ones we want her, and then
You
just
guys
say,
know the list.
please,
You guys know the groups.
Yeah, I think. she
all
just
the good
needs to
stuff
know.
that she
And it
puts
can
on our
just
page,
be-
let's share it.
I just don't know if she knows how to.
That's what well, we'll show her how to
She does.
share. We'll show her how to share.
I think the Gold Canyon groups.
I mean, it should be easy to
Peralta
post.
Trail residents and
Shouldn't
Gold
it be
Canyon are a
easy
big
to post
deal.
that many times a day with, like, even just a picture of kids doing a science project?
She's
or-
got a bunch of them, like
right?
on the website, let's get those out.
Yeah.
Or not the website, it's the district Facebook page, so let's share those. You know, because people aren't gonna come to our page, some people,
Right.
but for the most part, let's go to the community with it.
Okay, so we have about 12 minutes before we're supposed to move to the next item on the agenda. And so that individual page that we had, mine's written on at this point, but you captured the goal. Am I correct, Jody?
For communication.
And so based on that, you want to just walk through each one of these one more time and make sure that we have success indicators, and then I'll just collect the papers from you and then I'll clean it up?
Sure. All right, we'll just.
Okay, so let's finish the one that we were just working on, so let's get that one done. So you've got the goal, can you read us the goal one more time, please?
Communicate proactively to disseminate information that addresses issues throughout the system and community by engaging multiple modes of communication such as social media, newspaper, YouTube, public meetings, no less than one per month. And it
No less than
correlates-
one per month?
Correlates to goal number 2, community engagement.
Okay, so success descriptors. How are you gonna know that this has been successful?
Well, we'll
That
see
the goal
it.
has been accomplished.
So there'll be at least one communication
No less than one.
via social media. Newspaper, what was the other one? Public meetings.
We have press release.
She's been doing a
YouTube.
lot on the
I'm gonna
district
say, I think right
Facebook
now,
page.
she's met this goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been
Right.
doing a lot on the district Facebook page, problem is she's not sharing it.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
out
not,
there.
yeah, it's not,
limited.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing, is that she's just, there's a bunch, man.
I gave
try
her a
to,
whole list.
yeah, I try to get them, shared, but it
Ken-
would help if she could share them.
Who, I think Dina and Krista might be the most on Facebook, am I correct about that? Chelsea also? So maybe if you three can maybe make a list of what sites you think that we should, and if all three of you send
Can we come to an
it.
agreement, though? I think it would,
I think we should come to an agreement.
Yeah, because there could be like, I think we need to prioritize what groups we want to really get out there to.
Mhm.
Well, that's where, if I get the list, then we can look at the list and say which are the ones we really
We have to look
want.
at the members too. Like, there's one AJ page that has like 1,200 members, but there's one that has 12,000.
Mhm.
So that's how you can kind of gauge, I think.
So real quick, the major ones, 411, AJ Chat.
Gold Canyon.
Chat 1
Go-
and 2.
Go Canyon Community, Peralta Trail, those two are big, we gotta hit Peralta.
There's another one.
And then the other littler ones, you've got Chit Chat, Chat 2, and Everything AJ. Those are the major AJ ones.
What was
The
the
other-
last one you just said?
You have Chat 2 and Everything AJ.
Everything AJ.
Yeah, those are the major ones, but I would definitely hit 411 and Chat,
411, I haven't heard of that one.
AJ 411, that's
Oh, it's
nothing.
AJ 411, okay.
Nothing but information.
Okay, so are there any that you are thinking is not appropriate, or any that you want to add to that?
Some of those other ones, I wouldn't even go in, I've left a
There-
few of them.
There are neighborhood.
Right.
So
Some-
there's Sunrise Canyon, that has a lot. Ironwood Estates.
On Facebook, or are those, here's another thing, is it the Nextdoor app? Have you guys thought about that?
That's a good one.
The Nextdoor app gets you into specific areas of the community with your HOAs.
Sunrise Canyon, any other ones that you can think of? Montebello?
Ironwood Estate.
Ironwood Estates. Those are two big communities that are.
And they have, but their Facebook pages?
Ironwood Estates, next one, Montecito?
Does Ironwood
I think
Estates 1
Mountain
and
Brook
2
has
work
one, but I can't
together?
remember what it's.
Do you know?
I'm not sure.
She can do some searches.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because you have 1 and 2, if they are having the same conversation
Yeah.
in different subdivisions.
Be interesting, because they're on opposite ends of the town.
Mountain Brook 1 and 2?
Ironwood Estates.
Oh, Ironwood Estates, there's 1 and 2?
Mhm.
Okay.
Sunrise Canyon is the
I
big
got that one.
Yeah.
Any others? Okay.
How do we get out, I know it's small out there, but how do we get out to,
Queen Valley?
yeah, exactly. Do they have a group? Do they have,
I know.
I don't know.
do
but
they have
we will
a
look.
paper? Do they have a little small paper?
They have a little, I think they do have a little.
I guess I've
some
never
kind of-
looked. I can look at Queen Valley.
Or they used to anyways.
Something like a territorial or something?
They might have like something through the.
Yes, your dad.
My dad lives there.
You know, another thing would be, like the pastime.
That goes
Yeah.
like the Superior.
Well, they have their
Blue,
own,
and
they have their own page, Queen Valley.
My experience with
See,
them
there you
is
go.
there's no return for your.
All there is Queen Valley Golf Course.
Is that what you found, Queen?
I got Queen Valley, Arizona. It's just a general.
It's just like the location.
Yeah, it's not the page.
Okay. Progress steps, milestones, anything there that you wanted to add?
To make progress for the school action team for proposed monitoring.
We're gonna go to the quarterly reports.
Reporting.
So I'm gonna say our February work session will be number 1. April, so maybe every other month.
Okay, so bi-monthly.
April,
Reporting?
May, June, and then we'll come back in.
Bi-monthly reporting of activity.
Probably in the September. Well, I'll play with that a little bit and make sure we're time-wise. Okay, number 1, want to go back to the Safe Schools one?
Yep.
In our goals, we prioritize by Safe Schools curriculum communication.
That was just the order they were in this thing. So with Safe Schools, how are we going to know that we are successful?
Well, we'll know because we're changing, if we look at and review the policies and update
So
them,
we'll have a
updated policies.
we'll adopt a updated policy.
Or at least be reviewing them.
Review and possibly
Review and
updating.
possibly adopt an updated policy.
Mhm.
We talked about it being aligned to the
By
new state.
August 1st, 2000, well, I don't know if we'll have it adopted by then.
I think it will probably have to come to you guys in June. Well, the policies need to be adopted first. Well, that's,
is Joe-
basically June of 2019 is about the time frame we have to have it
The
done.
state is presenting first.
The state is supposed to come out in spring, so my guess is it's gonna be March, April timeframe, because their intent is for it to be implemented for the next school year as
Right.
well,
But
so.
we can look at what we have.
Yeah, the policy
Just
stuff.
to get ahead of the game a little
Yeah,
bit. and then-
Absolutely.
For sure.
Then be able to compare.
And then we'll have the policies in tomorrow's update, so you guys have some time, and I'll probably just keep that in there for a couple of weeks, so that it'll just be an ongoing item. Because if you don't want to look at it during Christmas vacation, I can understand.
Who takes vacations?
I'm working,
Who has
you're
time
working.
for vacation?
Okay, so we've got policies that have been updated. We have a plan that's being implemented into next school year. That's going to be our success for that particular goal at this point, correct? Okay. And goal number 2 over there is the curriculum adoption. And you guys have your descriptors already completed?
Yep.
What did you say?
Well, one of them was kind of already done.
Yeah.
Because like the timeline presentation of the evaluation, like that was kind of already done. So
Mhm.
then we added adoption presentation of new curriculum recommended by the evaluation committee.
Okay.
And then we added curriculum presentation completed, I think that was in December. And then we put proposals and presentations to occur monthly during the curriculum evaluation process.
So the piece I'd probably make sure that we have done is actually something in writing what the process is.
Well, but that's like your job, right?
Yes.
But we.
But
But
yes,
you're
I agree
giving
with
me
you.
direction to do
Yeah,
that.
right.
We need to.
I
Thank you.
wrote that down. Like we just oversee you.
You're just gonna give me the stack
Just
of
give us
paper and
the
say,
info.
tell me when it's done. Okay.
We just tell you how to do it, who, and how often,
We
and
wanna
all
see.
that stuff.
We just want to see what you're doing.
But yes, no, I agree.
Okay.
And like, so, because that's one of the things we talked about with regard to especially the, like the, including the community and stakeholders, is like memorializing or documenting like what that looks like. But then we kind of got stuck because it's like, okay, that, we probably shouldn't be doing that. You know, because we kind of started going down that road, but I'm like, okay, that's not, but that process should be memorialized
Yeah.
or documented.
Yeah, and I had written that process out previously, and
So maybe that needs to be
so
added
we can
as
tweak that a bit.
added as a descriptor, is the actual documentation of the process.
The documented process that we utilize for curriculum adoptions.
So there hasn't
That
been
in-
any process of,
We followed the process that I gave them, that we will go through
But
these
prior
steps.
to that, I probably
We haven't adopted anything in.
so this is something that would be handed off for future,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know.
And that's what we keep
They
talking
can change
about.
it, but at least, you know.
At least
have-
it exists.
It's about, I think I told you guys this story. I had a former boss that used to say, Krista, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, how are they gonna know what your job is?
Right.
He was always about documenting processes.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like I've become that talking head saying the same
Yeah.
thing. And because I've walked into a system now here, and not only this district I've walked into, that things aren't documented in the way that will allow it to be
Passed on.
a longevity
Mhm.
piece of it.
I agree.
So we want to make sure that.
It's not a
we're doing
well-kept
that again.
secret.
So in that, there would be professional development included in all that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Okay. Did you need anything else from us?
I think we're right on time.
We did include celebrations, how we celebrated.
How are we celebrating?
We
A
said,
video from you,
yeah.
live.
With Jody
That's cruel.
and Chelsea.
Live videos are cruel.
Hey, you got that from our end too, so I don't mind.
We said recognition via board meeting, newspaper, social media, and then maybe like a.
You have kids with their new materials in their hand.
And a thank you from you.
And a personal email from the superintendent or something.
To the committee.
To the committee, yeah.
Yeah, to the committee.
Okay. Does anyone need a quick break before we get started? Okay, I did too, need one too. You need one?
I'm good, I just need water.
Would you like me to get your water?
If you have any, please.
Anyone else need water?
Oh, good.
Me, please. They both go to the bathroom.
Paying attention. Oh my gosh. My socks never match.
I just want to tell you that every time.
They match too much. Normally I need like a green or yellow, but too pink. What?
Board member Rizzy's tardiness excuse.
What?
Somebody, I don't know if you know Frank Schoenbeck, he said board member Rizzy's tardiness excuse. And he showed a picture of us dropping stuff off. That's funny.
Was that on the tweet?
It's Surdy. Talk about a lame excuse.
Was that the tweet you just did?
No.
Oh my
No, he
God.
was saying why I'm late to the board meeting.
He was documenting why she was
Here,
late.
I'm gonna give these to you.
He's like, please excuse board member Rizzy. She's dropping off toys.
Do you have your document?
I thought you were writing it. We were.
Okay, I got something.
I can write it. I started.
We probably, we redid it.
I mean, I have right here. I can rewrite it.
Are we still on a break for a minute?
Yeah.
Oh.
I see something I'm starting.
I didn't eat lunch today. It's been like on the go, 7, 8 pounds. No.
Don't want to trip over the microphone.
No, it's just making sure you know where you landed.
What?
Dude, the fact that he called me to tell me this
What?
is just like, huge. I don't know.
To tell you what?
Brian Powell, because I had the food truck today,
Uh-huh.
and he
Oh,
called
I
me.
know, I had it at a client's house, place, and I still haven't made it to one of
Hey,
the
this is
food trucks.
Brian. I think I am too late in this chunk today of that. But we'll read along with your golf tournament. Thank you so much for the support there.
That's
and,
awesome.
I like to have that personal,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
I feel like that kind of stuff is important.
I agree.
They wanted to see me
Dina,
That's good.
do you want to write this for Heather Anderson? I think she wrote it.
She wrote it down already. So, you know, we just need to get a copy of it.
I wrote the
You're
goal, I
just
didn't
gonna write
write
it down
any.
and you'll give us a copy, right?
I would like to make a copy of that, just so I'm not gonna type this till tomorrow, and I
Okay.
don't wanna make sure I wanna make sure I don't miss anything.
Could you do, like, I don't know if this is possible, but when we have like a work session or something, and I know there's nothing on the agenda, it just says what we're doing. Maybe a way to put reminders to bring certain things like that for what we're discussing, because I forgot all my papers.
Wait, what are you asking?
Like, you know how like we did our goals? and
She
stuff?
did
Like, I
not
don't have a
bring
copy.
her-
Right, I don't have that. Or
Just
either
have a board
Maybe you need to be more,
folder.
maybe you need to be more prepared.
I do.
Have a board folder and always bring it.
Chelsea, I brought
I
your
do have it.
briefcase.
Oh, that's what I was just gonna go get.
You gonna see what my board folder looks like?
No.
Wait, after 4 years, see what yours looks like.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah. So just
I
like,
don't have this.
materials that are
Yours is
needed.
on there.
She's gonna take a copy of it.
Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna just pass out, just so you guys can read this while she's still around. So this is the chain of command document. I wanted you guys to take a look at it. After the last governing board meeting, I know that there were some challenges about audio. Well, I safely can tell you that audio was heard. One of our parents listened to the presentation. She sent me an email following the meeting, and she enjoyed the presentation, and she gave some feedback on this. And so I did incorporate some of her feedback in here as well. So these are, actually, let me wait till Krista's here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's what I was gonna say, we should wait for.
Oh, do we have another one?
And I have one.
You forgot about me, huh?
That one. Thought I made 7 copies, but maybe I did. This is the thing I'm gonna just give you guys to read. This was given to me by Denton Santorelli, the former superintendent of Peoria, which he would give to his governing board. And so he gave it to us at one of our mentor meetings. And then I looked at it, we thought it was pretty good, and so we wanted to share it with you and see what your guys' thoughts were.
So every day.
I'm gonna call you at 7 o'clock every morning then.
It says by mail, email too.
Oh, before I leave, I need to. Like, we're supposed to give you our personal preferences?
We're gonna talk about that
Okay.
in a few minutes. I'm gonna
Okay, sorry.
deal with that.
Stormy.
Krista's locked out.
Oops.
Oh, she's outside.
Oh.
Chelsea, did you see your name on the board in the hallway?
No,
You got
I
put in there, so you might want to take a picture, send it to Mom.
Yeah. Just having a sleepover tonight, so I'll go home and bring it. Cash asked her to spend the night.
Oh, fun.
Like lights up her whole day.
That's so
Casey asked her to.
That's cute. And trust me, it doesn't change. My daughter actually told my mom she would bake cookies with her this year. My mom is over the moon.
Well, especially because she's older too, so you know,
Over the moon.
they're too cool for you right now. She went shopping and all this stuff. She's so excited. I'll end up there too.
Oh, this is kind of like what we just talked about. Like I wrote it up in the corner, but then this is.
Let me go grab a copy of that.
How did you switch with Candy?
I had nothing to do with that. I think she pretty much summarized it.
What's that?
Put it in there for us.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
she asked me in the bathroom if I wrote it down, so that's why I was.
Unless you're a preference. I don't really care.
I thought she was writing it, that's why I told her.
I know Jody wrote it down.
You probably just didn't feel like doing it by hand. by
Cammy, did
yourself.
you request to be on the end over there?
No.
Oh.
She just asked if I had a preference where I wanted to go. I said I really didn't care where I went, just, so that's how she put us. I am gonna have an issue though, cause my left-handedness is going to be shifting your way, which is gonna cause you to shift to Krista's way.
But it did that
Are
when
you
you
lefty?
were there. too.
Are you lefty?
Oh, but you had room.
I am.
You are, yeah.
Oh,
We
she
both
had
worked
room
it out.
because Mike wasn't there.
Mhm.
Well, you could scoot over and then. Thank you.
I think the reason why they want you at the end is, sometimes they start that way, and as a new board member.
Oh, I'll go way over here then.
Okay. Okay, so starting with the first document, this was the document that I presented at the last governing board meeting based on some input from the governing board as well as from the parent that sent me an email. We made some changes. One of the changes is up in the top paragraph that says parents may also choose to go to the site council if they have questions or challenges that they want to address. And then also, the second part I put in here is that parent and community should expect no more than 2 working days before a response. So, you know, you get something on Friday night, you should be hearing from them by Tuesday at the latest. Then also down here are the phone numbers for each one of the sites. And these are links so that if you actually hit this electronically, there's a link that will take you to the teacher website page on that particular campus. So here's AJ High School teachers, here's Cactus Canyon teachers. When you get to TLC, it takes you to a web page that is going to be updated, but it does have the preschool teachers' names on it and their email addresses, but that page needs to be updated. And then the second district office is just our district office page, and it has all the phone numbers but no email addresses. So what Heather and I talked about is actually leaving that up for now, but in the meantime, have Edna create the key people that you would contact that are on here, where's their phone number and what's their email address, so it'll link it just to that. So that information, I was able to keep it on one page, which was, I think, it makes it easier. Second thing we talked about today when in cabinet is we pulled up a couple of other websites from other districts about questions and concerns page. And so we're going to create a specific page on the website where this will be linked on there, as well as a link to, if they want to use the, link to the policy and a link to that complaint form. So all of that will be put up there, and I think she's going to work on it and then share it back with us on January 15th in cabinet. So we should be seeing that up and running by the end of January.
So then will this be on each school's website or just the district?
We're going to do the district website, then what the second step she will take is then incorporating it into the school website. Yeah, but we want to make sure this gets up first for us. So that's what this is. I sent this document back to the parent that sent me the feedback, and I got feedback from her today that she said, you're able to keep it on one page and you got all the information in there, so she was pleased about that. So I thought this is in a good place, but please take a look at it a little closer, because if I miss something or you think that something isn't accurate, I need as many eyes on it as possible beforehand, because I don't want it to go out with inaccurate information.
And there was a district webpage that I was looking on, and they had something on there, and I can't find it right now. But I'm gonna send it to you about how they have it on their main page for everyone.
The directory?
Yeah.
Yeah, why can't we do that?
What?
Have
Just one
just
directory.
one directory, and I mean, you can still have one at each school too. But on the main page, why can't there be one directory?
Thank you for bringing that up, because the other thing today that came back is that Renee Watson has rejoined us. So she is now back full-time. She had sent Jen sometime this week something that allows you to search for any person in the entire district.
Right.
So that piece can be
Right.
added in there. But once again, kind of what I said, the challenge with what we know people as and what their official names are, there are a couple of challenges out there. I mean, Rosie is one that, what you think is her last name versus what she goes by.
Are you allowed to put what she
name.
goes by though?
Yeah.
Or does it have to be?
The typical system, and I would personally fix Maggie's name, because you're never going to get Avelia out of Maggie.
Mhm.
Never going to happen. So I think we need to figure something out there and make improvements. But I think there's a bigger improvement that needs to take place when it comes to our email addresses. We've limited it to 6 or 8 characters or whatever it is. And when you've got Dr. Chimokas was A. Chimoko or something like that.
Connell.
You don't even get the Y?
I think I'll get the Y.
And-
Can we make that bigger?
Yeah, so we want to be systematic when we do it, and we do it at one time. But what I wished we would have done, and that's still something that we're going to work on, is that when we get the new hires, let's just start them with a different naming configuration, something similar to mine, where it's first name dot last name and then the go AJ. We didn't need to do better, because I'm sure there's parents who are frustrated who can't figure out how to get hold of people.
Yeah. I can't
So-
find it now, but I'll
So
look for it.
that's that piece of it. But if you find that webpage, please send it to me, because we are constantly looking at other districts' webpages for ideas of how do we make it more engaging and so on. The second thing that you have in front of you, as I said, it was given to me by Denton Santarelli. When you are a first-year superintendent, they assign an experienced superintendent to you, and he was the superintendent for 8+ years in Peoria School District, and wonderful man. But he used this with his governing board so that he had communication that fit to that individual person. And so all I did was had Edna type it up, We made no changes with the exception of where it said Peoria, we put Apache Junction. So, not bought into anything here. I just thought it had some good pieces to it. I wanted you guys to read it. We know that we want to improve communication across the system. We want to improve communication amongst us. And so we need to figure out a way to do that in a way that is manageable for you as well as manageable for me.
And
So-
consistent, that's
Yeah.
the big thing, is consistency.
So
do you want to?
I'm going to let you guys read it for a few minutes, and maybe in 5 minutes, we'll come back and let's just go page by page and let's just talk about